لما جت العلبة فتحتها ما مكتوب عليه شيء، ما مكتوب عليه كوكاكولا.
And the minute I turned around, I saw that
labels أو الشعار أو المغلف أو التصميم هو بس للعلب مش للناس.
Well, remember when Coke wanted to buy the world of Coke? Well, they want everyone to imagine a world without labels now, so they started removing theirs in celebration of Ramadan, today being the last day. But is that move a sign that we are living in a time where everybody is afraid of offending someone? Joining us now to talk more about this is veteran journalist Mick Hume, author of the book Trigger Warning, Is the Fear of Being Offensive Killing Free Speech? Mick, great to have you with us. What do you think about that Coca-Cola ad?
Well, I think it's fairly typical of the times, John, that everyone wants to avoid offending people and often will do it preemptively without there even being any process. This kind of preemptive grovelling that everyone thinks that causing offence, saying something that might possibly be offensive to somebody is the worst offence of all. And as a consequence, we have a very kind of stymied public discussion.
Now, I remember when somebody said the only thing we have to fear is fear itself, but it seems like fear is clearly getting in the way of free speech. And you think about recently what happened with those Charlie Hebdo cartoonists.
Yes.
Is fear winning here?
Absolutely. I think the fear of free speech is the dominant thing of the time. And actually what happened with the Charlie Hebdo thing was, you know, we were left with the impression that here you had a kind of handful of Islamist extremists and the whole free world united in for free speech. In fact, what those characters with guns were doing was really acting as the armed wing, I think, of a very strong cultural tendency in the West here, which is the tendency which says, you can't say that. And they were basically putting into practice, at the point of a gun, something which everybody from the politicians to the comedy clubs seem to be in favour of these days.
So often we hear these metaphors involving Nazis, and it seems like the Nazis are the one group that people can use things to compare to that nobody's going to get offended about anymore.
Yeah, so it's one of the things that's said, isn't it, is that it's always a race in any public discussion to see who will compare their opponents to the Nazis first. But I think what's important now is to recognise that the threats to free speech in the West, which includes in the US, despite the wonders of the First Amendment, don't really come from old-fashioned Nazi-style jackboot political censorship. It's much more from this creeping culture of conformism, the fear of free speech.
Yeah, you see it everywhere on college campuses and elsewhere. Mick, great to talk to you. You can check out his new book called Trigger Warning, available right now. Journalist Mick Hume with us here on Newsmax Now. Thanks so much.
Thank you, John.
Time now for our Impact segment. Every year at the ESPYs, the Pat Tillman Service Award is given to athletes who also have served others. And at Wednesday night ceremonies, this year's award was given to Danielle Green. This was very moving. If you saw it, Green played guard for the Fighting Irish at Notre Dame from 1995 to 2000 after coming from very humble beginnings, really. After graduation, she enlisted in the Army, and just a few months into her tour in Iraq back in 2004, she was caught in an attack and lost her arm. After a lot of physical therapy and recovery, she went back to school and she earned her master's in counseling. She now continues to serve the Army at a Veterans Center in South Bend, just down the road from Notre Dame. Her acceptance of the Pat Tillman Award was an inspiring one, to say the least.
Ask yourself, what's my purpose? What's my passion? What do I want my legacy to be? How can I live as a full human being? Not all of us are Pat Tillman, but we can all find ways to serve our community. We can all find ways to support the people around us.
Well, good for her. This is cool, too. A Tennessee kayak tour group noticed a bear cub on a narrow beach 4 days in a row as they gave those tours. On the fourth day, the cub swam out to one of the kayaks, and the tour guide, Danny Allen, helped that cub on board. It was taken to the Appalachian Bear Rescue, where he was described as near dead. Look how skinny he is. Good news, though. The bear cub is recovering well and is expected to re-enter the wild
look at that tiny little
later
thing.
this year. All right, big moment. We actually got to play the Imperial March here on Newsmax Now. That's Kevin Doyle, a Minnesota man who just walked over 600 miles down the California coast to go to San Diego's Comic-Con. He made the journey from the Star Wars Museum in Petaluma to San Diego, the convention center there, to honor his late wife, who was a huge Star Wars fan. Doyle has now launched a charity in his wife's name to raise money for children's cancer research.
Force is strong with that one.
Oh, that's a nice touch, Miranda.
You know I had to say that. Well, it's
Yeah.
everything I can do to stop from crying right now, but I think that's...
How about Danielle Green, too? I'm so glad that we could focus on a couple of the other awards this week, except for that one that everybody is talking about, which will remain nameless.
Oh, I'm not allowed to say it?
Yeah, well, we've gotten
Jenner?
we've gotten this far.
Caitlyn
Well,
Jenner.
we got
Caitlyn
this
Jenner.
far without
You
getting
mean
to it.
Caitlyn Jenner? Courage
More to come
Award?
here on Newsmax Now. Stay tuned.
Caitlyn Jenner.
We're going to have fun tonight. What a show tonight. Oh, my God. It's just so much fun. But first, here's what everyone's talking about. It was announced today that Iran has reached a deal with the U.S.